Today, I'm trying to beat Baldur's Gate 3 on Tactician difficulty without picking up or using a single item, willingly. This means no armor or weapons, which makes dealing damage or avoiding attacks near impossible. This also means no gold, so we can't bribe or respec a character. We also can't revive a character unless Karlach, the only cleric in our party, rip Shadowheart, is able to revive with a spell. We currently only have the mysterious artifact, Camp Clothes, so that YouTube doesn't demonetize my video, and Kethric's Netherstone, which we could not pick up willingly. If you want to see more unbelievably stupid challenges, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's completely free and you can unsub later. I'm trying to hit 1k subscribers, and with your help, we can do it. Let's start with the rules. The first and most important rule is you cannot pick up any items from another character's inventory, the ground, or anything. Cutscenes that force us into an item are okay, because the Astral Prism cutscene gives us the Triune Netherstone and there's no way around it. For the record, this rule only applies to the Netherstone cutscenes, where we must be forced into getting them, never by manually picking them up. If this gives us an item that comes with it, that's okay, but I'll try to avoid it whenever possible. For other items, I cannot receive it willingly or unwillingly, which poses some interesting challenges that will come up later in the video. Other creatures we summon or control can have items, as this would soft lock us at the end of the game if we added that as a new rule. And the rule of no items only applies to our 4 party members. More on that later. Now let's begin. Once we reached Act 3, the mission was simple. Gather as many allies as possible for the final confrontation. Now because I forgot to save Roland, killed Counselor Floric and the Strange Ox, because all 3 are tied to rewards, we couldn't get them as allies. I also couldn't use invisibility potions to sneak past the fights, so I would be forced to get as many allies as possible because these fights in the endgame are tough when you have no items. Because Isobel was killed, that left us with 13 allies that could be recruited, one of which we already had, Halsin. But first, we needed a lot of XP to reach level 12. I slaughtered some thieves to hit level 10, where I decided to multi-class Itemless into a rogue to get that extra bonus action at rogue level 3. I investigated a murder, killed a clown, and met my darling sister Orin. We are the Dark Urge, and you must be the Dark Urge to beat the game without manually picking up an item. We had consumed the Astral Touch Tadpole, which allowed us to get Black Hole, a massive spell to slow enemies, which greatly improved our chances of survival. Though we were way too confident approaching 2 warring factions, and without armor, they annihilated us. I needed to get into the city, and because I had freed the Iron Hand Gnomes, they helped us get in. We couldn't accept their quest, however. This is where the problems began. A great number of these quests to get allies required items to progress them. This immediately takes out Astarion's quest and the Gur allies because the Tsar Signet Ring that must be inserted to progress the questline. The other problem is the Netherstones. We need all of them to progress. We enter Worm's Rock by just flying across the gap. Then we speak with Gortash and agree to ally with him. One thing that is important is that we don't talk to Mizora before leaving for the lower city. Our first ally is Auntie Ethel, so we need to immediately backtrack and kill Laura, who's at the Flaming Fist barracks. The problem with attacking Laura is that we also have to fight 2 very strong Flaming Fists. We killed some ballists to get fresh corpses with the druids to animate zombies, to prepare for that fight. I had Minthara cast Heightened Hold Person on all 3 of them, and we finished them off. I went to speak with Ethel, who becomes our second ally after we let her keep Vanra. What's important is that if you accept Ethel's quest and then kill Laura, she gives you gold, so you need to kill Laura first to avoid that reward. I elected to deal with Orin immediately, because it would be really bad if she showed up in our camp. In order to do that, I wanted to take on Sarevok. Why? Because Investigator Valyria needs to be saved so I can get her as an ally, and killing her will cause Sarevok to give us the Amulet of Baal, which is an item. I stopped the murderer and read the note to obtain the passphrase to enter. But because I couldn't pick up the hands, I realized I would have to fight the Death Knights to enter, and they are paladins. Paladins suck. I also forgot I didn't even need to confront Sarevok because I was the Dark Urge. I could just enter the Temple of Baal. I was heading that direction to unlock the waypoint when Lae'zel showed up in her underwear, claiming Orin had captured her. Surprise, it's actually Orin. She tells us to kill Gortash and then gives us an empty backpack. Reload. I added Lae'zel to my party instead of Minthara. Then I approached the Undercity and Orin is Minthara, and she gives us her backpack that you did not have before this. Remember my last video when I said this? Now we have Lae'zel, Will, Karlach, Gale, Minthara, Astarion, Halsin, and Jira. Well, that was a lie. It turns out if you don't give Gale magic items, which I did not, he leaves. Because he has no items, he'll just leave. Since he's a companion that can be kidnapped, and I have the other 3 capturable companions, this means I would have been permanently softlocked if he had not left. Only able to progress after picking up the empty backpack. Gale had become a hero for leaving, but for every hero, there's a villain. And the villain was the Traveler's chest in our camp. Now patch 6 broke a lot of the Baldur's Gate 3 mods, so I removed all of them before starting the runs, but forgot to remove the mod fixer and script extenders. That's the reason the UI looks like this, and the Traveler's chest is the true villain. Any item you send to camp will be soft locked there, and you just cannot open it. It's going to be very important later. I triggered the Orin cutscene without any kidnappable companions in my party, and the orphan girl Yenna ran up to talk to us, but we don't care about her because she doesn't give us a backpack. Then we backtracked to Sarevok and lured his Death Knight guards into a corner. We casted Create Water to wet them, and then used Ice and Lightning spells to deal massive damage to them as they are vulnerable to that damage. Eventually they did get some big hits on me after they were no longer surprised, but we took them down before approaching Sarevok. Because we were the Dark Urge and obtained our Slayer form, we could just proceed straight to the abattoir. But once Sarevok began moving, we immediately hold person him. Because his other allies are just in another room, Sarevok was here, paralyzed, and we could just wail on him. It took a couple turns until we took him down, but the Echoes noticed he was dead and attacked us with some pretty powerful abilities. Eventually, they go down as well, and we get Investigator Valyria as an ally. Now it's time for Orin. But before I went down there, I wanted to drop Ketheric's netherstone. I dropped it right here, where I proceeded to forget about it for almost the entire video. We descended into the Baal Temple. Because we were the Dark Urge, we could just enter the Temple of Baal. Now, given I was the Dark Urge, I needed to take down Orin, but I was only level 11, and if we got forced into a duel, Orin would easily defeat me, if we fought fair. But do you really expect me to fight fair? Come on. No. So I positioned my party on a ledge far away from Orin, then initiated the fight before I got forced into the duel, by attacking mid-cutscene. I had my characters use ranged attacks with spells to slowly take out her guards. Then I had Halsin use Cloud Kill on Orin. For whatever reason, if Orin started her turn in the Cloud Kill, her unstoppable charges don't reduce the damage, even though she is granted a dozen per turn. So long as no one has a clear line of sight to attack us, we can just keep replacing the Cloud Kill. It took us over 25 rounds of combat, but eventually we took out the last of Orin's troops, and eventually, Orin herself. Now, I wanted to be a redemption Dark Urge, so I could have Jira as an ally. But when I refused Baal's blessing, I realized the cutscene doesn't force me into picking up the item that I need, Orin's netherstone. With no way to get it without picking it up willingly, I had to accept Baal's blessing, because that cutscene made us pick up the netherstone without being able to stop it. We immediately ditched the dagger, and we have a second netherstone, just like that. Now, I hadn't had the opportunity to partial rest since the fight, and I wouldn't get one, because in order to leave, I need to defeat Jira and the Harpers she brought with her. Now, normally we have a few Baal cultists that emerge to help us, but 2 of them just refused to come out. So I used Minor Illusion to lure some of the other Baalists outside the temple door, but they refused to attack the Harpers. Now, most of them were not a problem, and the wolf they summoned was just stuck there, but Captain Leaf Song and Jira were the biggest problems. I did level up Jira, and because I could not respec her to level 1, she has all the HP and benefits of level 10. Thankfully, she also had very few spell slots because partial resting doesn't give you any, which allowed us to take her out. The rest put up a good fight, but eventually we took them out. We now had Baal as an ally. The next ally I had in mind was Dame Aelin, We headed to Sorcerer's Sundries and decided that Lorroakan should learn how to fly. We used Meow and Minor Illusion to lure him to the edge, and Eldritch blasted Lorroakan to his death. He doesn't prepare Featherfall, that's on him. The Myrmidons were, understandably, not happy, and pretty powerful. Some key resonation blasts and spells were enough to wipe them out. For some reason, Aelin still did not join us. I have no idea why. We eventually hit level 12, where my third rogue level gave me an additional bonus action and gave the rest of my party more constitution. I wanted to disable the Steel Watch next to get 2 more allies, but this is where I made the mistake that would cost me the run. I convinced Redhammer to take us to the Iron Throne, so I could save Duke Ravengard. I only needed Obelia Tubin alive, so I immediately headed for the security wing, only to find that Ravengard was dead? I had no choice but to leave him behind, and head to the Steel Watch Foundry. I knew I could not get past all the Steel Watchers and the Steel Watcher Titan, but the first fight, I needed to have Xander Tubin die, so that I can speak with Dead on him, to get the code to destroy the Steel Watch. And the rest was going to be up to Lae'zel. I leveled Lae'zel up as a wizard for spells like Invisibility and Knock, which were spells Gale had before he vanished. I had Lae'zel cast Invisibility and sneak past the second group of Bay Knights and 2 Hellfire Watchers, and cast Knock on the door to the control center, which did start combat, but all the enemies just spent their turns dashing to her, and I had Lae'zel walk through the door and recast Invisibility on herself to sneak past the rest of the Steel Watchers. We input the code to blow up the Steel Foundry, sky high. How did the other Bay Knights not know that I just went to the Neuroster? I don't know. With that, Wilburn congratulates us and joins our camp alliance. I wanted to take on Raphael as well, but the problem was, I'm not sure how to get there. The very first step is the ritual pouch. Halsik will give it to us if we negotiate with her, and pickpocketing it is not an option. So we are forced to cast Hold Person on her and beat her to death without entering combat. Then we can drag the pouch slowly up the room, destroy it, and drag the components around the circle, and open the portal to the House of Hope. But then I ran into a massive problem. To initiate the fight against Raphael, I need to steal the hammer or destroy the contract, both of which would involve me picking up the Orphic Hammer. Or would it? If I wanted to get Yrgir on my team, I would need to get into the House of Hope having signed the contract. Maybe there was a way to sign the contract without getting the hammer. Now this exploit or glitch I'm about to show you gets really crazy. I had my character kill Lae'zel, she disapproved of that, and had Karlach summon a bear companion to reduce me to a very low amount of health. Killing Lae'zel allowed me to switch between characters to summons during the Raphael cutscene. Then, while I was in the cutscene, I attacked Raphael and my character with Karlach's bear after accepting his deal. Attacking Raphael didn't work because he just teleported away, but for some reason killing my character while in the cutscene just caused me not to get the hammer. The game said I had the hammer, but it just was not in my inventory. I don't know if this was a bug or something to do with the fact that my game was absolutely starting to fall apart at the seams. To confirm it wasn't a one-time thing, I tried it again, and it worked again. The journal even said that we had what we needed to enter the House of Hope, but the hammer's just gone. I didn't need the hammer, I just needed the contract. Because if you destroy the contract, you don't actually get it. And that's a way to avoid picking up an item. Now that we could enter the House of Hope to destroy our contract, to trigger the Raphael fight. But because the hammer was gone, that meant I could not save Hope, which would make that fight so much harder. We took on Harleb, read Raphael's journal without picking it up, and headed into the archives. We cleared the House of Hope of its debtors and devils that occupied it. We used the fountain, which cannot be added to your inventory, and then destroyed our contract. We proceeded to head straight out of the House of Hope after all the summons and buff spells we had. We headed to the portal room only for Hope to close and lock the door. None of my characters have knock, and because Thieves' Tools are an item, we had to reload our save 3 hours back and bring Lae'zel into our party to open the locked door. So long, Hope, but you brought that on yourself. I passed the check to get Yrgir as an ally, and the battle began. We desperately needed to destroy the Soul Pillars, because no items means no damage reduction, and he hits like a truck when he uses spells. The other cambions have rays of fire, and we have AC so low that they almost hit every single one of those rays. So these cambions needed to die. One by one, the soul pillars fell, so I used Black Hole to group all of the cambions up and keep resonation strikes to whittle them down. But Yrgir was the MVP, using Thunderous Blast and daggers to keep the others busy. Raphael used Incinerate to destroy 3 of my summons. Eventually, he turned into the Ascended Fiend and used a Fireball to destroy an additional 5 of my summons. The cambions eventually went down, and Raphael 5 rounds later. You put up a good fight. It's time for Gortash. On my way to Worm's Rock, I remembered Mizora was still there. Curious as to why, I talked to her, and she revealed she had an offer which involved Duke Ravengard. To my surprise, Mizora offered the same deal, only she would raise Ravengard from the dead if Will agreed. That gave us 2 allies, because of course I had Will agree. I mean, why wouldn't I? We fought some flaming fists and snuck our way into Worm's Rock. We reached Gortash, and for some reason he didn't acknowledge that we destroyed his steel watch, probably because the game is falling apart at the seams, but still refuses our alliance because we lack Ketheric's netherstone. Thankfully, I planned ahead and positioned everyone else outside. Then I lured Gortash outside, as I knew just killing him wouldn't work, as I needed to pick up the gauntlet to progress. So I positioned my fungal zombies near the edge, and according to my plan, Gortash ran very close to the edge, and a thunder wave blasted him into the chasm. After the fight ended, we expected to get a cutscene where I got the netherstone, but then it happened. We saw Gortash's gauntlet on the floor. This needed to be picked up to get the stone. The netherstone wouldn't count, but the gauntlet would. I panicked and reloaded to look for Ketheric's stone. Then I remembered about the traveler's chest. The goddamn traveler's chest. I thought I knew that the stone was in there, probably because I sent it to camp. I looked at the Baldur's Gate 3 Discord in sheer panic and asked for help. I had no idea what was going on. Then someone asked me, "Are you using mods?" Now, before the run, I had made sure to remove all of the mods I had. What I completely forgot was the supplemental ones, like Mod Fixer, Script Extenders, and Improved UI. Some weird combination of those was causing every exploit or glitch you saw in the run to happen. To prove this, I tested the Raphael exploit afterwards, and it gave me the hammer. I removed all of these mods, and now I can see my character portraits. The UI health works. I can open up the Traveler's chat. Oh, it's not even in there. I genuinely panicked and spent hours going through all the recordings trying to find out when and where I dropped Ketheric's stone. Eventually, I realized it was right where I left it, over 12 hours ago. Now that I knew where Ketheric's stone was, I reloaded back almost 10 hours, siding with Gortash before taking out the steel watch. After those 10 hours of redoing everything I had done in the past 10 hours, there's only one fight standing between me and Itemless being beaten. Sort of. I headed to the Morphic pool and met Gortash, only for him to die and me having to pass a DC 99 check that I actually passed. We gathered our ally and prepared to fight. The one problem was, no items means no invisibility potions to sneak past. I also had to relinquish the stones to the Emperor because he would have to use them, and we can't use items either. We made our way through the sewers and take on the Death Knight mini-boss. We had Itemless fly to past the gauntlet and make it to the brain. We climbed the brain, but the brain wasn't done. The brain summoned 4 counter aberrations of us, 2 of which were druids, rogue, and a sorcerer, all of which were way stronger than us. Thankfully, we could call for backup. And this horn does not show up in our inventory, so it's fine. No idea where we got it from, lol. We had the Emperor beeline it to the crown and cast a spell to open the portal. We used every spell and attack we had to hold them off, but it wasn't always easy. Once we entered the brain, we had a massive problem. The brain has a massive AoE attack, and we were low on health. We used every spell or attack or fist we could and finished off the brain with Itemless's one and only power word kill from accepting Baal's blessing. Now, did I beat Baldur's Gate 3 Itemless? Sort of. You see, no matter what you do besides the netherstones, you will be forced into one item. the Deathstalker Mantle, or the Amulet of Baal. You cannot win without picking up one of them willingly. However, you can win without using any single item. I went through and tested, looking through all the recordings, and not a single time did I willingly use an item. So in spite of the fact that I never used any of them, I'll still make the solo challenge run series. Soon, I'll let you vote on what it is. Now before I end, I need to explain a few things that you guys have commented about, that I wanted to talk about. Now when I mentioned this was on the hardest difficulty, back in Acts 1 and 2, that was because I had made the script for them before when Honor Mode came out. I was focusing on that for my old channel, but then Pal World came out, so I spent many months working on that video. So Acts 1 and 2 were recorded before that. I've also been busy with college. Thank you so much for supporting the series. I want to thank all 350 of you wonderful people and the 85% who haven't subscribed yet. Make sure to like the video and comment your thoughts. Thanks for the massive support. See you in the next video.